for that, let me know if you can see my screen. Can you see my screen? Great. So, yes, there is so much noise, there is so much chaos, there's so much content. Okay, so again, welcoming all of you. I've been enjoying this energy. The past two speakers and the whole energy in the chat box is so amazing, so thrilling. I've been thriving on this energy, and I see everybody else has been too. So, a very happy afternoon to begin with. And let me first ask you, since we're talking about narratives and talking about owning our narratives, what do you see right now? When you go to your social media feeds, when you go in your professional spaces, what is it that you see? Everybody is trying to do what? Everybody is trying to get a share of your attention. It is the attention economy. And what must you do to rise above the noise, to rise above the chaos and so much cluttered content? What is it that you can do to be seen, to be heard? Do we all want to be seen and want to be heard? That is the first question I have. I want a big yes, many yeses, if you want to be seen and heard. So, I understand that yes, everybody wants to be seen and heard. I can see that energy. And now tell me something. Uh, has anybody seen this guy that I'm about to show you on my next slide? Um, has anybody seen the movie Muppets? And does anybody know this guy? Anybody who knows who this guy is? Kermit the Frog. And if you would know, there's a song that he says, there's a song that comes in the Rainbow finale, in the Rainbow Connection finale, which goes something like this. Don't mind my bad singing, but it is something like this. Life is like a movie, write your own ending, keep believing, keep pretending. Isn't that what each of our lives is about? It is like a movie. But do we treat it like one? Do we create our own endings, or do we let others create our endings and write our narratives? The question I have for you is right now, do you own the narrative? Tell me a yes or no. Do you own the narrative? I believe a lot of you do. And some of you are still trying to grab hold of why do I even need a narrative? We will talk about it, but let's go ahead from here. So, if you see, there is this constant voice in the head. What is this voice in the head? Even right now, as I speak to you, as I do this presentation, what do you think this presentation is? Is it a monologue or is it a dialogue? Write in the chat box, let me know what do you think it is. Is a presentation that I'm doing right now with you a monologue or a dialogue? Well, some of you may say it is a monologue because I'm presenting and there's no way you're communicating with me. But what if I tell you it is a dialogue? There's a voice in the head that is constantly going to tell you while I share what I share that, oh, yeah, that's interesting. Yes, I connect. Really? Ah, what is she saying? And whatnot. There'll be something going on at every point in time, at every minute, at every second, every time you're sitting in front with somebody, whether or not you speak, whether or not there's a visible dialogue, you will be constantly in a state of dialogue because you're responding, you're reacting. And what does that voice tell you right now? How are you feeling about this presentation, about this dialogue that we're doing? What do you feel is it going to be about? What does it make you feel? Does this dialogue, does this presentation make you feel that this is going to be an empowering conversation, an empowering dialogue? Or does it make you feel, no, I mean, let's see how it goes. I'll be a part of the ride and then see that what it is. I'll judge for it later. But let me tell you something, or rather ask you again. What does it tell you about you? What does that voice in the head constantly tell you about you? Are you constantly doubting yourself? Or if I have to ask you in a better way, do you doubt yourself? If I was to give you four options constantly, sometimes, uh, many times, never, what would you choose? Do you doubt yourself? Are you doing that constantly? Are you doing that many times? Or are you doing it sometimes? Or are you never doing it? I want to hear from you. What do you think? Because what our voice in the head does to us is what decides what our narrative is about. Do we own the narrative or do other people own the narrative for us? Is a lot about what your voice in the head tells you. Before I get on to the next slide and talk about my story, I want to hear from you. What do you feel? Are you constantly berating yourself, judging yourself, criticizing yourself, judging every thought, action, movement, every emotion that you find in yourself, be it in your personal lives, be it at your workplace? What are you constantly doing? Are you your best cheerleader or are you your worst critique? So Erin says, yes, I always doubt myself, but I have a voice that tells me to keep moving forward. That's beautiful, Erin. That's beautiful. And yes, a lot of you do doubt yourself sometimes or judging yourself always. But why? Why do we do that? Where does that come from? Tanvi says, no, she's constantly pushing herself. Amazing, Tanvi. So, again, let me ask you one more question. What stops you from being your best cheerleader? What is it that is telling you that you're not enough, that you're not good enough, you're not smart enough, that you're not quick enough, you're not fast enough? The not enoughness comes from where? A lot is to do with the people that we surround ourselves with, because proximity is power. But why are we our best cheerleaders versus our worst critiques? Amazing, Vidya, that you are your best cheerleader. That is what we all need to be able to own our narratives. Coming to where, coming to another context, building another context here now, is about what I have on the next slide for you guys. Failed. What does that word make you feel like? What is it when you see this word glaring in the red, big, bold letters? What does this word make you feel? Have you ever experienced failure? Have you ever in your life experienced that you couldn't do enough, that you failed, that you could have done better? And that's where you started judging yourself, you started criticizing yourself, you started telling yourself that I'm not good enough. Where did your not good enoughness come from? I'll tell you what, for those who say, Neha says she's never tasted failure, I'll tell you what, we've all tasted failure. The first time we tasted failure was when we were toddlers who were trying to learn to walk. We tried to stand up, we fell. We tried to stand up again, take another step, we fell. We injured ourselves, we bruised our knees, we had pain. But of course, what happened? We continued walking, we took another step, and there we were, standing tall. We learned to walk, but we failed. But we did fail. But nobody at that point in time told us that you shouldn't fail from walking. You shouldn't fall. It's a bad thing. Nobody told us ever that you're not good enough just because we fell, just because we bruised ourselves. Our parents, in fact, came cheering us. They were our cheerleaders, they were our squad that was empowering us. Let me take you to my own story. Of course, we failed. The first time I failed that I remember was, of course, as a kid who tried to walk but couldn't and fell many times before I started walking. But the most bizarre, most worrying memory of failure for me was when I was in sixth standard. As a kid who was in class six, a 10, 11-year-old kid who failed miserably in her maths. So miserably, I scored what? A 13 out of 100? And I didn't know what to do next. The only thing that I could think of was not going back home. I decided that I will not go back home. The only thought that occurred to me was that, uh, I failed so miserably. I cannot show myself up to my parents because failure is a taboo and there's not much grace, not much forgiveness when it comes to failure. And I feared going back home. I feared it so much that the worst thing that could occur to me at that point in time was to jump out of the fifth floor of my building, of the school building. That was the top floor, I believe. Well, yes, a teacher saw me and pushed me back home. The buses had dispersed. There wasn't anybody, and I managed to reach home. Did not show my results. And when my parents did get to know about it, what was next? They decided I will be doing my sixth grade again. Funny enough, like every other parent, somewhere they decide that my child is the best. My mom thought that there's probably nothing wrong with my little girl, but maybe something's wrong in her stars. So the funny incident that now I connect back to failure is that failure for me led me to change my name, led my mom to change my name. So what was Sonal turned to Sonia the next time I did my sixth grade. Failure can also lead you to change names. Funny enough, but yes, what did that do to my school life? I turned to be a shy kid. I disconnected. I really did not enjoy my school life because somewhere the thought was that I failed. I took it as a noun, then a verb. I started feeling that I am not worthy of good things. I'm not worthy of the best things that I can or deserve the best things. I started telling myself without being aware of it that I'm not good enough. And that's what my story of failure, first failure was. What was the second story of failure for me? I grew up, college happened, uh, I started my job. Uh, the jobs went fairly well, though I always started because the belief was that I'm not good enough. What was the constant belief that I started telling myself, despite getting all the laurels? My first job gave me so much appreciation of all my work that I did. The first job that came to me was one of the best placements from my campus. Yet I felt that things are coming to me way too easy. I don't deserve them. It's just happening to me. My second job came again because I networked very well with my people, with my clients. The second job too happened. But yet, the feeling that I had within me was that I am not good enough. I don't deserve this. It has just landed. It just came in. It is just a gift. Maybe I don't deserve it. And then again, there was a startup that I did, my first startup back in 2015, Karigar Connect. I gave up way too soon. I couldn't persevere. I felt that maybe I cannot do it. Maybe it's not meant for me. Maybe it isn't something that will come my way with too much greatness. Maybe I cannot scale it. All those maybes, where did they come from? The fact that I told myself that I am not good enough. and that I'll fail. Last year, incidentally, I failed again. I failed in saving a friend's life. A friend who had reached out to me was not in the best of shapes. I couldn't reach out to him in the right time, and I failed in saving his life. What does that make me feel? What was I doing? I was constantly judging myself. I was constantly telling myself that I'm not good enough. I cannot do this good enough. I was constantly being my worst critique. Did that help me? Does that help you? Does that help any of you when you're judging yourself, when you're criticizing yourself, when you're telling yourself that you're not good enough? It doesn't help anybody. And that's where my mentors, my proximity, the people I connected myself with, ensured that I am the best version of myself, that I'm the best cheerleader for myself. And that's the reason I say, thank God I failed. How many times would you say, thank God I failed? How many times would you say that it's all right? I'll still cheer myself up. It's okay. I'm not a failure. It's just an event that happened in my life. It's all right. Move on. How many times would you push yourself out of the comfort zone? What is the voice in your head telling you right now? I would love to hear that from you in the chat box, in the comments. What is it that you're feeling right now? What is that voice in your head telling you right now? Are you good enough? Because if you are good enough, if that is the feeling that you're ingraining in yourself, if that is the brain tattoo that you're giving to yourself, is when we will move on to the next slide and talk about what's next. What can you do? Have you guys heard of Brené Brown? She's one of the most famous. She's the most famous TED Talks, which has also been converted into a Netflix movie. She's an author, and she talks about one of my favorite quotes from Theodore Roosevelt, which is what I want to talk about next. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of the deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who's actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust, sweat, and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there's no effort without error and shortcoming. But who does actually strive to do the deeds? Who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. And that was the valiant call of a leader who talked about the man who's actually in the arena. Does it really matter who tells you what? Does it really matter what people judge you for? Why would you constantly tell yourself, what is it that people are talking about me, when you are the man in the arena and not them? You are the one who's marred by dust and sweat and blood. I would highly recommend that you guys ensure that you watch the Brené Brown documentary and the TED Talk if you yet haven't. That is One woman who inspires me like none other. What does what is it that you, as the man who's actually in the arena, feel like at that moment? It is just about you. It is not about the people you surround yourself with who are telling you that you're not good enough. Surround yourself with people who tell you that we're there. But at the same time, believe in yourself. Believe in your own actions, in your own thoughts, in your own emotions. So, one thing that I love is about this picture, the picture that you see right now, is of this little boy who's wearing a cape, who's a hero for himself, who's inspired by another hero. I have a question. Why do heroes always wear a cape? Does anybody have an answer for me there? Why do heroes always wear a cape? Jazila, it's all right. You have your engineering entrance engineering result not eligible for engineering. It's all right. The world is out there open for you. There's so many things that you could do. PB Dwaram failure is something which always my father says you got another best chance to unlearn and relearn. Golden nuggets. I don't know why am I even doing this talk? Why am I even presenting? Why am I even in this dialogue? You guys know it all. You're an amazing audience. Rajuta says, thank you so much for providing such an elegant answer. Okay, I don't know if there's an answer that I provided, but yes, Neha, they want to fly and be visible. About the heroes, yes, absolutely. What else? It gives you wings. Absolutely, Rachna. This is their standard uniform, a cape. I will answer that, Susan. Why the cape? I'll answer that. Pooja, if I surround myself with people who are always telling me that I'm good, will that not make my growth stagnant? I feel we should have a mixture of both kinds of people. Pooja, yes. However, just to answer that, you need to know, you need to be able to discern the right people who are giving you the feedback, even if they are giving you feedback, but for your growth. There will be people who will be pulling you down, who will be toxic. You need to stay away. You need to be ruthless. Because if you're not, you don't know what when will it lead you into a downward spiral. I've felt that. I've been there, I've done that. Being an empath, I know I end up attracting people who end up being energy vampires, and the kind of downward spiral it leads me to is not worth the time. Is really not worth the time. Coming back to the heroes, yes, to reach everyone, to help others, they need to fly, they have a cape. Let me answer why heroes wear a cape. Are you ready for this? Are you ready for what is about to come? Give me a big yes. Give me a big yes, what is about to come. The cape is a metaphor for carrying responsibility on your shoulder, Divya. That's true. That's true. That's very true. It is. What else? To fly high. Yes, that's right. And this is what, there's a reason why heroes wear a cape. That's my analogy, you may say, but let's just explore what it is. They're consistent, they're authentic, they're passionate and purpose driven, and they're empathetic. These are the four things that every hero that you would ever know would be doing. And that's my own acronym. That's what I have created. That's what my observation is. You may differ. You may choose to differ, but if you would look at any hero's journey, these are the four things that they always do. Have you ever seen a hero who does not have these qualities? If you were to grab hold of your own narrative, if you were to ensure that people know you for what you really are, this is what you need to do. You need to be consistent in your efforts. You need to be consistent not only in your efforts, but ensure that your efforts, your thoughts, your emotions, your actions are aligned and consistent. that you're authentic, that you're not wearing a mask, you're being you, you're passionate and purpose driven. Because without that, of course, whatever we may do will be just a hogwash. It will be like a done cake covered with icing. Is that what we want to be? If you're not authentic and if you're not passionate and purpose driven, empathetic. If we do not be considerate, if we are not considerate of people around us, of our environment, of people in our workspace, how do you think would you actually be able to survive and thrive? It is easy to be self centered. It is easy, very easy to be selfish. But if you're not empathetic, if you're not considerate, you won't last too long in the arena. Coming to some comments, of course, do share what you feel about the qualities of a hero and what is stopping you from being the hero in your own life, professional and personal. Akansha says a senior manager copied my innovative idea and presented to the client. What I did, I made a POC before his team would make it and showcased. That's amazing, Akansha. Yes, we need to take charge. We need to ensure that we take charge and not be thrown to the ground. We can talk about it, Akansha. We can talk of it offline. We can answer that question. Uh, Moving on to the next one, Akhila says that I got rejected from an internship test, but I worked upon myself and now I have a better opportunity. Amazing. The fact that we don't give up, we don't give in. I admire all of you people who are ensuring that you take charge of your narrative. Srikanth, yes, laziness is the biggest enemy. There is no denial to that. Hero is always selfless. I wouldn't say they're always selfless, and there's nothing wrong with being self centered. But you can be self centered, yet be empathetic and considerate of the people around you. Heroes generally end up having a good, if you talk about the various movies, the super. But unless you're empathetic, unless you're considerate, you would not garner too much respect and you would not last too long. Shrishti says, I have people encouraging me, and when I really have a problem, I often find no one to turn to. How to overcome that feeling? Shrishti, what is stopping you? How would they know that you have a problem and that you're wanting to approach? You need to have. So, for me, if I was to talk about myself, I have my 3 or 4 go to people when I know that I am a little, not centered. My energies are not centered. I'm feeling off the hook. I need to speak. One, of course, I'm authentic. I ensure that I acknowledge what I'm feeling. I do not create a hogwash or try to ignore it. I ensure I address it because a lot of times we try to ignore it. We try to become that ostrich who hides its head in the ground, thinking that that problem does not exist, but that problem is still looming large. So address what you feel, acknowledge it, be it a journal that you write it in, be it a blog post, there has to be a way of acknowledging and letting your emotion flow through. Because if you don't do that, you're doing an injustice to yourself and you don't want to live a life which is not great enough, which is leading you to a downward spiral. Create an inner circle of at least 3 or 4 people or 5 people who are your go-to people. A mentor who you can go to when it comes to your professional advisors, a person who you can speak to when it comes to your personal life. A lot of times, most of our problems are solved just by somebody listening to us because we feel lighthearted, we feel that we've been heard. So ensure that you have people who will hear you out, even if they may not be in a position to guide you or and one more thing, be very careful that you do not surround yourself with yes people who are always telling you that you're right, even if you are taking a wrong call. Sometimes when I say surround yourself with the right people. Yes, one of you also said that always having people who always say good things about you can be a wrong thing. As long as people are genuine, as long as people you surround yourself with are the right people who are actually interested and invested in your growth, you are good to go. So Kodru says, what to do when you want to learn but you don't have the right resources? Kodru, what do you mean when you say the right resources? Is it the people? Is it what is it that is the resources when it comes to what the challenge is? Do share that. Neha says, as being a working woman, how can I address people who constantly keep on criticizing as is work more important than family? Okay, how can I address people who constantly keep on criticizing as is work more important than family? Okay, so Neha, of course, you need to if you have a family, you do need to strike a balance, but you do need to speak to them and let them know how passionate you are about what you're doing, and that it makes you happy, it makes you genuinely happy. And when you are with them, ensure that you give them the right energy, the right love. So when I say balance, it does not mean that okay, 9 to 5 and uske baad just cut off yourself, but ensure wherever you are, you're spending your time mindfully, you're completely into that. If it is work, if you love doing what you're doing and you're passionate, there is no reason your family will have a problem with it if they see that you're happy and you're coming back home happy and spending your time in a very cheerful, in a very nice way. There will be, of course, ups and downs, but as long as you're invested in your work with all your heart, mind, and soul, and in your family with as much passion, then it is not easy. It does not come easy to be able to merge both, but that conversation can be had at ease. Rujuta asks me, how do you stand out in a crowd yet be approachable enough to everyone? Um, so the way to stand out in the crowd, if I have to now come to the next slide, because of course we'll be running out of time, or we are already running out of time, I believe. Um, so let me first come to the next slide, and then we talk about how do you stand out, Rujuta. So make some noise, but I would say make a lot of noise. There is what I call leadership V to U model. You ensure you create value, you ensure you create visibility, and you ensure you do you. So, what is leadership V to U? When I say make some noise and I say make a lot of noise, Rujuta, ensure that you are creating a lot of noise that people cannot ignore you. So much noise that people just cannot afford to miss out on you. There are so many platforms that we can now be seen in. As a person who's working in an organization, you can start taking leads and initiatives where you're volunteering to maybe create a community within your organization, or doing programs or projects which are outside of your comfort zone, where you learn and where you take charge that why not do this. You create value by volunteering and doing a lot of initiatives, creating a community. uh, you ensure there's you create your own visibility, create a lot of noise. Do not just make some noise, create a lot of noise, and you do you, being your own self. One thing that I would again refer to as a resource is Gallup, so which is a strengths assessment platform. Gallup is a world known organization which talks about strengths. It has the Clifton Strengths Assessment Test, which I also did for myself, and it says you are as a person unique, so unique that you're one in 34 million. And what does that really mean? That people who have, for example, my strengths will not match in the same order as anybody else's. I am so unique that the strengths that I have will not be the same strengths that anybody else has. Ensure that you utilize your strengths, be authentic in what you do, and create a lot of value, a lot of noise, and ensure that you own your narrative. I understand that we may be, do let me know if Varsha, do we have more time? So yes, I can. I think we'll move on to Q&A later. So there's no more time. But I loved addressing all of you. I loved the energy, and this was from my side. We can take the Q&A later, and I will move on to end the slide with a thank you. And glad that you guys were participating. One thing that I want to leave you with is this dialogue from Gully Boy. I hope everybody has seen this movie, and if you have not, you have to see this. मैं नहीं बदलेगा अपना अपना सपना अपनी सच्चाई से मैं नहीं बदलेगा अपना सपना अपनी सच्चाई से मेल खाने के वास्ते मैं अपना सच्चाई बदलेगा जो मेरे सपने से मेल खाएगा. I create my own reality, that the one that matches my dream. I want each of you to ensure that you put down in the chat box what is your reality. It could be anything. What is your current reality? It could be anything. It could be I'm enough. It could be I'm the voice in my head and I lead with awareness and clarity of my goal. It could be I'm a leader who's connected, compassionate, and lead with the heart of serving. Whatever you see your dream, pen it down as your reality right now in the chat box. That is what I want each one of you to do. And I'm glad I was a part of this. I am so glad to be a part of this community, Women Techmakers community, and being able to address you guys. I would leave you at it. I do not want to eat into the time of the next speaker. I've enjoyed my stint. And thank you so much for being such an amazing, warm, loving audience. I'll be happy to address questions later on during the Q&A. And you can also connect with me offline on my social media. I am at SOUNIYA Kurana across all platforms. Do connect. Would love to chat with you.